Yo, if you're a birthright citizen, I highly suggest you watch this video to its completion so you can truly understand when these people are just playing in your face and fear-mongering you just to control you. Yo, what's poppin'? Now, I'm always talking about how the far left right now is basically fear-mongering and using scare tactics to try to get black Americans to get up and get active for things that do not benefit them or anyone in America. And that's what they've been doing the whole time that they've been using us. I'm going to right now play this footage that was on PBS. And I want you to listen to the verbiage that is being used, one, but then two, I want you to pay attention to the demographic that he's talking about. Now, I want you to keep in mind, as black Americans, not African Americans, but as black Americans, our ancestors went through chattel slavery, and then the whole Reconstruction era, Jim Crow, the antebellum South, redlining and everything else. We've had police brutality. We know the story, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But ask yourself, where's the police brutality bill or any of these things, right? But right now, even the NAACP is telling black American students not to take scholarships or go to state schools in solidarity for the illegal aliens that them and the Democratic Party are fighting for. Now, listen to what he has to say, and then I'll finish up.
Controversy continues to swirl around President Trump's immigration agenda as he pushes through a series of sweeping changes, from recent Supreme Court rulings terminating protected status for Haitians and Syrians to fast-tracking refugee status for white South Africans. Outrage has spread across the country. Now, this comes less than 6 months after 2 Americans were shot and killed in separate incidents by federal immigration officers in Minnesota. Author and chair of American Studies at the University of Toronto, Jason Stanley, now joins Michelle Martin to discuss this.
Thanks, Christiane. Professor Jason Stanley, thank you so much for talking with us once again.
Thank you for having me on, Michelle.
We often consult with you because of your expertise in the subjects of authoritarianism, propaganda, how governments define who belongs. In the United States, the Supreme Court term just ended, and there were some very consequential decisions around immigration and also citizenship. So on the one hand, the court, by a narrower than expected majority, did uphold the concept of birthright citizenship. This was a priority of President Donald Trump's in his second term. He signed an executive order on the first day of his second term in office saying that he wanted to change that birthright citizenship should be illegal. The court said, he couldn't. But nevertheless, just the sort of the discourse around it surprised a lot of people. They thought this is settled law. This has been settled for 150 years. So I'm curious about your thoughts about that, about how the court ruled as it did and why there was even a discussion to begin with.
Well, the court has to maintain some measure of legitimacy because they are so obviously a tool for authoritarian purposes. For example, they ruled to allow essentially unlimited cash donations into politics as well, extending the Citizens United decision. So they really couldn't have taken a ruling that was so obviously inimical to the Constitution, as Trump was here asking them to do. And as you said, Stephen Miller and other administration officials have gone on the media and really excoriated the court in really the most extreme racist terms imaginable. Miller said that, we're going to have people from countries that wouldn't have even invented the wheel, and they're having babies in our hospitals. And these are kids who are going to grow up to serve on juries and judge you and your loved ones. In other words, he's saying that essentially non-white immigrants to the United States, because of their skin color, really, are permanently inferior, permanently evil, permanently problematic, and should be permanently disbarred. So, you would think that someone growing up in the United States, even if they came from a difficult background, would, if they're like any other human being, be part of the culture and the education system. But that's
Yep. All right. So again, we'll start here, right? AOC, one of those darling liberals that we've been conditioned to support, and she's a part of that POC coalition. Now, she said several times that she does not believe Black Americans deserve reparations over her career, but y'all continue to vote for her. And just as Stephen Miller said, she came from one of the groups that happened to have a child here, and now they're in government as elected officials. But let's see what she has planned.
And deported their families and permanently traumatized these children. These things are barbaric and they're wrong. Those families are owed reparations.
It's just interesting to come to a place where...
All right, you heard her. Those families are owed reparations. Okay. All right, next we have Representative Pramila Jayapal. Is another one who was born here, right? And she's part of that POC coalition, the same one that the NAACP goes out and tells Black Americans to support. Well, let's see what she has to say.
For immigrants, that should not exist. They should not be there for profiteering for big corporations that then channel those profits back into this administration that facilitates them. And at the end of the day, when we are back in power, one of the important things we're going to have to do is balance a number of different things that need to happen. Number one, we need defensive reform. We need to stop the things that are happening that should not be happening. We need offensive reform. We actually need an immigration system that works and recognizes the contributions of immigrants to this country and establishes legal pathways for people to come to this country and for people to be able to get citizenship when they've been a part of our communities for so long. And then we also need offensive actions around prosecutions. We need real accountability because at the end of the day, the people that have been inflicting this harm need to be prosecuted. They need to be brought before us and they need to be held account for the trauma that they have created, and we are going to have some form of reparation for the kids.
When we get back in power, there will have to be, and there is going to be, some form of reparation. Maybe, just maybe, Stephen Miller was on to something. But you know what? Nah, couldn't be. All right, so now we're going to see what one of our fellow skin folk has to say about what they think should go on with the Black Americans that invited them to the cookout in our home turf and then let them set up shop in our communities. Let's see how they feel about reparations for Black Americans. Because remember, we voted and we support and back these people for local, city, state, and federal government.
Just play quickly what you said about reparations.
Dr. King said at the tail end of his life, he said, we're going to Washington and get out the king. What is your position on reparations? I don't believe in reparations. I don't. Next. Well, then you don't believe in the Black community.
So you don't believe in reparations?
Oh, wow. Why did y'all play the rest of the clip, man? I was on fire during that one. A couple things is, all right, how many people in the United States today are...
Playing in your face. I was on fire. You niggas don't deserve shit, and why'd you stop? Because I was on fire. You should have let me cook on your punk asses. But let them cook now.
Actually descendants of slave owners. Forget descendants of slaves. Let's hold that to the side. Descendants of slave owners. You've had massive immigration into the United States over the last 150 years. So now you're going to say that people who immigrated to the United States, who are not descendants of slave owners, were not descendants of that trade, now they're going to be responsible for paying that out going forward. My mother's Jamaican. My father's Panamanian.
Woo!
You have a lot of Black people in this country who are not descendants of the American slave trade. So I already know off top, there's a lot of Black people in America who aren't going to be able to get that kind of benefit
And that's what it boils down to. Because they're not going to get that kind of benefit. They're voting against what's best for you and yours after you invite them through the front door, and for some reason they can't process how that makes us feel. And then they have the nerve and the audacity, the gall and the gumption and the testicular fortitude to then say shit out of their mouths like this.
What's your background? You American? Dirty black American?
Wait, what?
Huh?
She just said that?
I did. A dirty black American. I sure did. Because that's what y'all are. Because that's what y'all are.
I had a conversation with my boy literally right before I got here. And then when I got on my phone with my boy, he was like, nah, think about it, Rich. There's plenty of Haitians who say, vieux salope. In Creole, that means like dirty or bad black Americans.
When we have Frank here, we talk about the word akata. Like, it seems like everybody in the diaspora got specific terminology, detrimental or negative, degrading terminology
for black Americans.
For black Americans.
But I'm gonna tell you why, what he said after. And he said, bro, black Americans have no discipline.
I kind of appreciate her saying that, because these are conversations that are happening in the background. It's only because we have social media now that a lot of these conversations are coming to the forefront. These are conversations that they be having behind closed doors all the time, and maybe they get too comfortable, and then it slips up when you don't think it's that serious.
What's your background?
And you know what? It's funny that the people that say we have no discipline are the same people that didn't comprehend that temporary meant temporary and not permanent, and did nothing over the last 2 decades to even try to get permanent residency or citizenship. But they're mad at us when these are the things they say about us, but they have nothing to say about the white man that's kicking them out, when their whole time that they've been here as a collective, not as individuals, but as a collective, we can see politically what they've been doing. In fact, hold on a minute, I can show you more.
Keep screaming this from
Pay
every
attention.
mountaintop I can. That's Hassan Ali, and this is Ilhan Omar. We know who Ilhan Omar. Hassan is the president or prime minister of Somalia. They had
Queen
a
of the
roundtable
learning
meeting
centers
with nothing but Africans talking about getting in to American politics, but understanding that they are 100% Somalian and they will never change. Now, in this clip that I'm about to show, Mr. Ali, Hassan Ali, is talking, and he's letting it be known that Ilhan Omar is there to take a black American seat in Congress.
It is very important in anti-Somali measures. Somalia are exceeding Sudaya. Nini menguru haka atau siyasa of moral.
They are not here to be our friends. They are not here.
Are y'all understanding yet what's happening? The Socialist Democratic Party, the party of new Marxists and communism, has been sold us out. You know what? Y'all do know who the Southern Poverty Law Center is, right? Well, let's start connecting some dots. We saw what happened at DC on the 4th with the white nationalists, right? Okay, cool.
Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Raskin, members of the committee, I'm honored to testify before you today. I will argue that the Southern Poverty Law Center does not merely track hate, it systematically inflates it, profits from it, and, according to a federal indictment, may even have helped create it. The first thing to know about the SPLC is that it has nothing to do with poverty. The Poverty Palace has an endowment as assets of $822 million.
And they only put poverty in the name because they were trying to appeal to the Negroes during the Civil Rights era. But keep that line that we're on tracking in mind, because Southern Poverty Law Center, and you can Google who funded them and what ideology they come from. Okay? Now next we have the NAACP. They were also started in 1805, 1809, somewhere around there, I'm sorry. But they also got their initial funding from the same people that funded the Southern Poverty Law Center. They're the same people that fund the Democratic Party today. But anyways, let's see what the NAACP are telling Black Americans is in their best interest. Okay.
Unprecedented moment featuring an unprecedented attack on Black political representation, and therefore it requires an unprecedented response.
That's right.
We are here standing in solidarity with the NAACP and its call for athletes to boycott institutions within the SEC that belong to states that have unleashed these Jim Crow-like racially oppressive tactics, which is unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American. And we believe that the silence of these institutions is complicity. That's right. And we will not stand for it.
All right, now, we heard Jeffries. Well, let's see exactly what they meant by students.
In this moment when Black representation is under attack, it is important for the CBC to keep in their tradition of being the moral of the Congress, but the moral of conscience of this country. No representation, no revenue, no one Black should be on a playing field of institutions that's living off of our labor.
Now I went from American students to specifically no one Black. Now remember, the NAACP is calling for the federal government to defund ICE because they're not fighting for Black people. They're fighting for the illegal aliens that Mama Kamala let through the door, as I affectionately call them, Mama Kamala's kids. But I'll let him continue.
And yet, in states that are seeking to reinstitute a sharecropping reality, it is not the responsibility of Black America to hold individuals who should know better accountable for doing better.
The audacity of the diabolical, disturbing nature of the psychobabble that this nigga just spit out his motherfucking mouth to say that it is not Black America's responsibility to hold grown politicians accountable, yet they're calling for Black student athletes, our children, to do so. People don't hear the shit that they can't see themselves and they can't hear themselves. But this is the plot. This is the script. Revealing the method. They're playing in our faces, but I'll let him continue.
As soon as the United States Congress stand united to ensure our Constitution represent all of us, we will be a better nation as a result. NAACP this morning, in solidarity with the CBC, we are calling on athletes who are coming out of high school not to attend any state-funded schools of states that have moved to minimize our right to vote, to minimize our ability to elect candidates of our choice, and states that are seeking to create a sharecropping reality. Whether that state be Missouri or Mississippi, whether that state is South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, or Florida. 55% of all African Americans live in the former Confederate South. But the 55% of us who live in the former Confederate South, we will not tolerate a Confederate mentality on our labor, on our ability to contribute, and our ability to be to have representation. In this moment, our democracy is in crisis. This is not about partisanship. This is about true representation. And for the NAACP, we will fight with all we have in solidarity with the Congressional Black Caucus to ensure that we have representation, or if...
And the Congressional Tether Caucus, because most of them are all either naturalized citizens or first generation American immigrants. That's a fact.
We don't. We will withhold the talent that play on the football field or on the basketball court, be them men or female, in this moment.
We will withhold. So basically, the NAACP is telling you to use your black children as ransom for illegal aliens. This is what this shit's really about. In fact, here, we'll finish this off. All right, so now that we back, we're going to let him finish his fear-mongering, and it'll tie it all up. And then you connect the dots and ask yourself if any of this is making sense. As a black American, they're fighting so hard and telling you, after everything we've been saying for how long, that now it's ethnic cleansing. And he's going to tell you why they're calling it ethnic cleansing. Pay attention.
Are permanently inferior, permanently evil, permanently problematic, and should be permanently disbarred. So, you would think that someone growing up in the United States, even if they came from a difficult background, would, if they're like any other human being,
in other words,
part of the culture.
In other words, you niggas should understand racism, even if we do it to you just as bad as the so-called white supremacists. But you should understand already, because you should be used to it, nigga.
Or in the education system, but that's what's being denied here, and that's why what we see, contra the court's decision in its removal of TPS designation, we see that this administration is promoting racism as essentially its major ideology.
TPS refers to temporary protected status.
Temporary.
That was another consequential decision of the court. It clears the way for the Trump administration to revoke temporary protected status. In this case, the case before the court was specifically two groups, Haitians and Syrians, who had contested the administration's decision to do this. And other groups are implicated by this. There are other groups that are currently living in the United States under temporary protected status. This is a status that is conveyed to people whose countries of origin are considered too dangerous or too unstable to return to. And, this was...
But these are the same people that are right now screaming, they built America. So if you built America, should be no issue to upon return, because you all have your own private islands. Build away and show us truly, since what you say about us is a fact, show us what makes you so much greater.